Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our October 3rd Webster School Board of Education meeting. Would you please stand with us and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Board members, you've had a chance to look at the agenda. Are there any alterations to the agenda tonight? Then may we have a motion to accept the agenda? Thank you. Mike, second. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you very much. There's an old African saying or proverb that says that it takes a village to raise a child. This implies that it takes more than just one person to teach a child the way of life. And this speaks to the need for support and positive influences not only in school but in the community. Tonight, town, village, and school officials are gathered to pledge a unified commitment to the education of and prevention of bullying in our community and schools. Adele, would you like to introduce our town and village guests? And we invite you and Ron and John to tell us about the proclamation.
Thank you, Mike. We are very excited about this proclamation. Ron Nesbitt, Town Supervisor of Webster, John Cahill, Village Mayor of Webster. We work together every month on the Webster Community Coalition for Economic Development. And as part of that collaboration, and Carmen Gamina also sits with us on that committee, the idea of instituting a proclamation in all of our entities in the town and in the village and in the school, an anti-bullying proclamation, and proclaiming October as the year that we focus. It is National Anti-Bullying Month. We discussed it as partners, and we said that we would do this and support each other in this work. I have to say it's been wonderful to see the care attributes extend into town programs, rec programs, and really just kind of coalesce through the community that we care and we're a community who cares about each other. And this proclamation is just an extension of that. So we would like to read it to you, and Supervisor Nesbitt will begin.
Whereas we must safeguard schools and communities for our children, and through our recognition of the serious issues that face them each day, offer our children an environment that holds promise and security. And whereas many organizations, school districts, educators, and parents have publicly expressed concern about the bullying of children.
Whereas nationwide, each day an estimated 160,000 children refuse to go to school because they dread the physical and verbal aggression of their peers and the loneliness that comes from being excluded and made the target of rumors and cyberbullying, many more students attend school in a chronic state of anxiety. And whereas it is important that we acknowledge and heighten awareness about the serious issues and the negative effects of bullying, including the long-term damage it can cause in our youth, as well as risks of teenage suicide. And whereas providing a safe physical and emotional environment is a significant goal and a personal responsibility of each individual. And whereas it is time to stand up for character down to bullying.
Therefore, the Village of Webster, the Town of Webster, and the Webster Central School District proclaim their unified commitment to the education and prevention of bullying within our communities and schools, exploring solutions to the problem, including cyberbullying legislation, and offering support and raising awareness and recognizing the month of October as National Anti-Bullying Month.
Would you like to say something? Okay, so all of us have signed the proclamation, including our president of the board, Michael Suffoletto, and we will be proudly displaying it in each entity, and we will have it in our central office, and in the village offices, and in the town offices as a reminder of this night and of this month.
And I look forward to the same action happening at the October 17th Town Board meeting, where Adele and John will join me in a proclamation with the Town Board.
Thank you all very much.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Both Ron and John, we hope you can join us at our homecoming. All right, we'll move on now. We do provide our audience with an opportunity to address the board, and at this time, If there's anyone that would like to speak to us, I believe, Amy, you do. We do limit this to a 15-minute period, and each individual speaker is given a total of 5 minutes just for time purposes, so we know that. So, Amy, I believe you'd like to address the board?
As many of you know, brevity is not one of my strengths. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity for public comment. I am the parent of 2 learners in our district, a 5th grader at DeWitt Road School, and also an 8th grade student athlete at Willink Middle School. Go Titans. I'm here tonight to share an article I read recently that resonated with me on many levels. The author is someone many of us in this room are very familiar with. The author is someone we have come to respect enough to embrace her message as a framework for how we guide and lead both teaching and learning in Webster. The author is Carol Dweck, PhD, and she wrote this in April of 2012. The article is called, "Is Accountability Undermining American Education?" What is education for? Is it for pouring facts and formulas into students' heads, or is it for creating learners? At its best, was the U.S. educational system known for producing memorizers and test takers, or was it known for producing innovators? I think we can agree that we want to create learners and innovators, people who seek challenges, stretch to learn new things, and bounce back from setbacks. If this is what we want, we are going about it exactly the wrong way. High-stakes testing may in fact be creating the very opposite in our students. My research shows an environment that emphasizes evaluation and testing creates a fixed mindset. That is, it sends the message that intellectual abilities are fixed and the purpose of school is to measure them. Students come to see school as a place to look smart and, above all, not look dumb, not a place to create and learn. A fixed mindset also breeds low effort because students believe that high effort advertises low ability. It breeds poor reactions to difficulty because they believe that difficulty also reveals low ability. These are not the habits of people who achieve or innovate in adulthood. Growth mindset environments, in contrast, portray intellectual abilities as skills that are acquired, not inborn, and puts the focus on the learning process. When students are taught a growth mindset, when they are taught that every time they stretch themselves to learn hard, new things, their brains make new connections, and over time, they can get smarter. Their motivation to learn increases. Their desire for hard tasks increase, and their resilience in the face of difficulty increases. Even their achievement on test scores increase because they want to learn, not because they drilled for the test all year. Everybody's talking about Finland, the country that nearly tops the charts in reading, science, and math in PISA, a standardized test given to 15-year-olds around the world. But guess what? They really don't care. Here's what a representative from their Ministry of Education says. "We are not much interested in PISA. It is not what we are about. Instead," he says, "we prepare children to learn, not how to take a test." Finnish educators recognize that a focus on growth and learning is critical not only for success in school, but also for success in today's wildly unpredictable world. She ends with, educator Milton Chen tells of a colleague who was in India when an Indian educator questioned her about the American practice of high-stakes testing. As she explained the policy, the Indian educator simply said, "Here, when we want the elephant to grow, we feed the elephant. We don't weigh the elephant." Have we as a country confused weighing with feeding? I believe that we have, and in the process, we have undermined young people's desires to learn and their capacity to innovate. It's time to rebuild the growth mindset culture with its emphasis on tackling the unknown to grow our abilities and discover new things. This is what made America, for so long, the hotbed of creativity and innovation. And I think in this article, she got it exactly right. And I'm glad that I had an opportunity to share it with you. So I'm asking you to please consider her warning. Please again consider a resolution or a letter of concern. The sweeping, forced, and frantic implementation of the Common Core standards, APPR, and high-stakes testing that comes along with it, including the experimental Algebra 1, to me, is little more than schoolyard bullying by our state education department. My plea and my challenge to my community, my PTSA, and you as leaders of our district is to please join me in being the courageous bystanders. It is our shared responsibility, I think, to intervene and advocate for those who cannot advocate for themselves, be it because of young age or preservation of livelihood. Please jealously protect the love of learning and the joy of teaching the whole child in our district. And imagine what it would be like if we could just let children learn and let teachers teach. Thank you for listening, and thank you always for your commitment to students.
Thank you, Amy. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address the board? Seeing none, we'll move on to our liaisons. I do believe we have Thomas here tonight, right? Yeah, you, okay? Oh, good. Sorry, I didn't see you. If you could, you want to put down John and Mr. Cahill's and Mr. Nesbitt's name tags? Not that you want to run the village and the town.
But you never know, they may in future years.
That could be. Josh or Lorenzo, who wants to go first? Okay.
Good evening, board members. As October begins, students are preparing for their PSAT exams, representing the Titans on the playing field, and gearing up for Spirit Week. It looks like it's going to be a great month at Webster Thomas. The Counseling Center has developed a great opportunity for our students this month. On October 22nd, the Titan College Campus Road Trip is offering juniors a chance to visit 6 local campuses. They may choose to go to SUNY Brockport, SUNY Geneseo, MCC, Nazareth College, St. John Fisher, or the U of R. Many of our juniors are eagerly waiting for this road trip. The Titan football program volunteered at Holy Trinity Church on Sunday, September 15th by moving and setting up items collected for the Hope House garage sale. This is the 4th year that the Thomas football program has volunteered at the Hope House garage sale, and we thank them for their service. As I'm sure many of you know, tonight is Thomas's open house. The annual event is always an interesting event for our parents as they try to make it to our classes on time. Thomas would like to congratulate our marching band on a big win in Cicero North Syracuse High School. They took home the first place trophy on September 14th. Last weekend, the Thomas cross-country team participated in one of the biggest running events in the country. The Titans took home 3rd overall at the McQuaid Invitational. The Titans are also now one of the top-ranked teams in the state for their cross-country. The Webster Thomas players are also working on a production of Born Yesterday. The actors and directors have been working hard for weeks already, and the show is premiering November 21st and will go through the 23rd. The students and faculty at Thomas would also like to congratulate Schrader's own Jensine Falou Montez for being the first female in Section 5 to score a touchdown in varsity football. If it couldn't be Thomas, we're glad it could be Schrader, and we're happy to see that Title IX is healthy in Webster.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Josh?
Good evening, board members. Thank you again for having me here tonight. To begin, one of our English teachers, Ms. Joanne Ham, gave an assignment to her AP Literature classes to write an essay on East of Eden by John Steinbeck. According to Ms. Ham, one student, Yifan Kong, a senior, wrote a near-perfect essay. Each of the board members have been given an essay as a gift to see as an example of the wonderful work our students are creating. In our music department, 7 Schrader students were named to the junior high area all-state ensemble and 10 to the senior high area all-state ensemble. The junior high concert will be on November 1st and 2nd, and the senior high November 15th and 16th. This morning, our counseling center put on its annual Rochester and Buffalo area college fair. Our library was packed with students from all grades checking out what the schools had to offer. The visiting schools said it had been the best turnout of all their visits so far. On October 1st, our Gold program hosted Holocaust survivor Sam Rind to speak to the students as part of an interdisciplinary project called Faces of Success, organized by Tracy Holly. The focus is to get students to explore different concepts of success as an individual and as a contributor to the larger community. On Thursday, October 10th at 6:30 p.m., our counseling center will be putting on its annual Toolbox Night, where parents can come and learn the essentials they'll need to know for their student. Our math league had one of its first wins yesterday at Wayne, taking the title for the large school section. As homecoming is fast approaching, our student council is very busy preparing for all the excitement. On Tuesday, October 15th, we have Jersey/Blue and Gold Day with snow cones available after school. Pajama Day is Wednesday with the tag, what you would wear to your grandmother's house, after it. And a bonfire will be put on at 8:45 that night on the track after the girls' soccer game. Thursday, it's Class Continuity Day with our freshmen in tie-dye, sophomores in beach-themed clothing, juniors with patriotic, and seniors in Army. And on Friday, we have our Color Day with freshmen in blue, sophomores in purple, juniors in red, and seniors in the traditional black. Our pep rally is that afternoon, and football game later that night against Fairport. And don't forget to join us on Saturday in the Village as our Warriors show off that they are Webster Schools proud by the parade starting at 12 from Spry to the Fireman's Field along Main Street. And finally, our sports teams are keeping on a great track so far this year. Our boys cross-country team is 8-7 and girls 13-2, football 2-1, field hockey 5-3-1 and is currently tied for first with Thomas in the large school division. Girls volleyball 10-1 and currently being ranked as 5 in the state and 89 in the nation. Our boys soccer is 7-2-2 so far, and this past Saturday, 40 boys soccer players helped out at Webster Comfort Care Home in the morning. And we've had 3 star athletes these past 2 weeks that I've been asked to mention. Senior Katie McCrell was named the Girls Athlete of the Week last week by Democrat and Chronicle. Senior Tori Tong placed in the top 25 last night at the Cheerleading Individuals Eddie Meath Tournament. Tori will go on to perform at the Eddie Meath football game later this season. And last week, senior Jensine Falou Montez scored the first touchdown in Section 5 history by a female. We are very proud of all of our students at Schrader over these past 2 weeks and their accomplishments. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to hear all the great things the schools are doing.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Denise and Chris, anything from the PTSA?
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Thank you for having us this evening. On behalf of the PTSA, we'd like to welcome our newest board members, Mike and Paul. We look forward to working with all of you this year. Take a moment to introduce us. My name is Chris Canessa, and this is Denise Bellavia, and we are Webster Central's PTSA co-presidents for this year.
Webster. Okay. Webster PTSAs are working on behalf of all the parents and students in the district. So it's important to support your school's membership drives at this time of the year. So memberships are off and going. Calendar sales have started for this year. Calendars are available at all events. They're also available in the high schools, at the offices, and at Hagedorn's. So we're looking to, that's really what drives us the first half of this year. What we're hoping to do this year is hopefully bring in a new school every meeting to present what they're doing, so that you can see different faces to represent PTSA, hopefully, and not have to look at us every month. So this month, since you have us, and we actually also represent Schrader, because we're both on Schrader's committee, we are going to talk to you a little bit about what Schrader PTSA is doing. So this year, Schrader's PTSA decided to do something new with our apparel, and we brought back something old because the 9th grade did an old logo and brought it back, and we thought it'd be cool because a lot of the kids have been talking about it. So we brought back Warrior Nation, and it was very well received. And so this is our new spirit wear for Schrader this year. So it was something that our PTSA is trying to do, and trying to get some spirit in at Schrader. So we will be kicking things off. We do raffles with the kids at lunchtime, give them free $5 raffles, go in there, get parents' faces around there so that they can see that we're there and part of the care model. So, okay. So that's Schrader PTSA for you this month.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for all your work, and we'll be excited to hear from the different schools. That's a great idea.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
And Lisa from WTA.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Lisa.
Keeping with the tradition of my teacher highlights, but with a spin. This year I'm going to focus on Common Core lessons. And I actually brought a teacher with me, and she's going to share what the Common Core looks like in her classroom. She has 9th grade algebra. This is Tony Lynn Swinson. She teaches at Schrader.
If you could look over on the projector, it will scroll through lesson number 5 in the first module of Algebra Common Core. The first module is an overview of some basic concepts that we will dig into deeper as the year goes on. Student learning has changed in that we start with the concrete and then move to the abstract. In the past, it has been the converse. In this lesson, it's a basic overview of solving 2 equations and 2 unknowns, but none of that is mentioned in the lesson. The title of it is 2 graphing stories. Reading the first situation, it gives very little information, but it relies on their background knowledge. So it starts very basic, we talk through it, they're able to graph something and come up with a point of intersection and make meaning to it. The second problem on the page has them look at a video, and it gives a little bit more information. Now it gives as a time ticker along the bottom. So they've got some more information. Again, they're able to graph 2 situations, find the point of intersection, and make meaning to it. The last situation, same idea, an elevation versus time graph. It gives more information, and by the end, they have had Duke and Shirley with 2 different rates that they're moving at. It tells them how far apart they're starting, and they're able to write the equations of both Duke and Shirley, which in the past has been a very difficult concept for students to do. Now we are looking at encouraging kids to be problem solvers in math. We're able to rely on their background knowledge. Students are problem solvers. They problem solve every day outside of the math classroom. And then when they come in the math classroom, traditionally, we have given them one way to solve something, and that was it. We're encouraging that now. Why not? There's creativity in math. In the real world, kids need to be problem solvers. I look at this and I say to myself, a common math problem with meaning behind it. What an idea. In the past, we have started with the abstract and maybe have gotten to the concrete. In that process, many would struggle because it didn't have meaning. They couldn't rely on background knowledge and therefore struggled to problem solve. It was very much like looking at a foreign language and being asked what it meant. We're building on what they already know, and moving to the abstract is easier. They still get the practice with skill. It is in every problem. We are now able to focus on the why does it work and how does it work from the beginning. I am witnessing more aha moments on a daily basis from students as well as myself. There are passionate mathematical debates that occur in class. They are logical in their arguments and proof to back up their statements. There's excitement in math class, and it's not just coming from me. Their mathematical vocabulary is growing exponentially. As with anything new, change takes time, perseverance, and dare I say grit on everyone's part. This Common Core ride is truly an adventure.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great example.
Well, our next, there's been a lot of media attention given to our next guest, who exemplifies one of our sayings, dream, believe, achieve. She dreamed of playing football. She believed in herself that she could play football, and she has achieved actually being in the record book for Section 5. And I also see we have our color play-by-play announcer in the audience. That 22 Lead became a very famous play. Gary, would you like to,
We have the coach, too. Coach.
and Coach? Yep. Let me take these two.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening,
Good
Gary.
evening.
I'm going to take myself out of the middle of this one because I'm going to let Coach Watkins, Collie Watkins, and Jen Seen talk about the great accomplishment that took place last week. And I'd just like to, again, congratulate all the athletic teams because I think they're having a great year, not only here at Schrader and Spry, but also at Thomas and Willink. I know Collie is going to correct the varsity football record. It is 3-1, not 2-1. So we just wanted to set the record straight. But in this day and age of kids playing sports, I think the lines are pretty much blurred in the I guess in respect to females and males playing all kinds of sports. And we were lucky to have Jen Seen move into the district at the end of last year. And she persevered during the workouts, during the summer, I know the camps, and she's done a great job of becoming a part of Webster. In the short time that she's been here, I think she's now a warrior. Would you agree? Yes. And we're very proud of her accomplishments. So I'm going to turn it over to Coach Watkins, let him say a few words, and then we'll let Jen Seen speak about her accomplishments too.
I'm a father of 3 daughters, and I always catch myself telling them, you can do whatever you want. Don't let anyone stop you from doing whatever you want. Last spring, I had to put my money where my mouth was when Jensine approached me and said, I want to play football. And, 95% of people look at Jensine's stature and says, it's a rough sport, and I don't know if you should be doing this. And I told her all of my concerns as to why I was hesitant to let her play, and told her all the requirements and expectations of a Webster Warrior football candidate, and she said, okay. And from then on, she didn't miss a workout. She did everything that the boys did. She proved that she was physically strong enough to handle it, and my job was done. I did nothing else, and the only thing I provided her was an opportunity. And just like you said, Mike, she had a dream, she had a goal, and she had a passion to pursue it. And on last Tuesday night, she got the opportunity, and she made the most of it. So with that, I want you guys to hear from Jensine Falamontes.
What did it feel like?
It was exciting. I don't know, it felt great that I could actually get a touchdown, and I don't know, it was wonderful.
I saw your teammates jumping up and down and screaming as loud as you were. They were very excited for you. I thought that was really cool to see. Did you find that when you first started playing football that your teammates received you real well?
Not at first, because a lot of people thought I was going to quit. But, I just decided to keep doing it, and I don't know, they're really happy that I kept with it and was able to get a touchdown also.
That was fantastic. Good job.
Thank you.
Jensine, I don't have to think that the touchdown was the celebration, obviously, but the biggest part had to be the challenge of last spring and sticking to it. And that is, when talking about grit and sticking to things, that's interpersonal, and that's something that will be with you forever. So great job. And the touchdown was wonderful.
Thank you.
It was great. And coach believing in you is another thing too. So great job.
Thank you.
Jensine, I'll just add, wonderful accomplishment, and millions of young ladies through the internet are well aware of what you did. But I think what's also important is that, if I read the article correctly, before that you didn't receive a lot of playing time.
No.
Right? And everybody on a team has a role. And there's some people that start, and there's some people that don't. And you were a part of the team, or you are a part of the team. You kept doing what you were doing. You stayed focused, and when the opportunity came, you seized it. And that's an important life lesson. And I hope everybody takes something away from that. So, great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's all been said, Chelsea.
Thank you.
Congratulations. It's extraordinary. You should be very, very proud. I know we're all proud of you.
Thank you.
You go, girl.
We would like to show a clip of the actual touchdown for the audience. Nope, he's having the same problem with my computer.
Colicchio did a nice job catching that ball. Here's a Jen. She's running. She's going towards the end zone. She scored! Yes, sir! They hand it off to Jensen Falmontes, and she rolls in and scores perhaps her first touchdown of the year, and the crowd goes wild.
Nice run. She had the opportunity. It was great blocking up front. The Warriors really, you can tell it's important, not just to number one out there, but to the whole team. This is an important thing for the whole team. Kudos to Webster Warriors for that play.
All the teammates are giving her a big high five. Some are hugging her. Segula, the quarterback, picked her up and gave her a bear hug. They're all excited about it, and the crowd is still going nuts.
Did Coach Watkins give you the number 1?
No, I chose it.
Ah, good choice. Well, we do have a recognition award for you that we'd like to give. So, congratulations.
Thank you.
And hope to see you score a touchdown in the sectionals.
Me too.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, next we'll be receiving a report from the Health and Safety Committee. Now, this committee has looked at the physical security of our buildings. It's reviewed our present protocols and regulations. It's assessed our current emergency action plans and considered future protocols and possible policies that will help ensure that our students, our staff, and our community are safe within our buildings. So, Neil, would you like to tell us a little bit more about the report?
You're doing a pretty good job, Mr. Suffoletto. As Mr. Suffoletto said, the Health and Safety Committee has been charged with taking a look at many of those items triggered around the district's overriding goal, which talked about the goal number 3 about operation and budget reflect the academic and financial values of the community and be structured to support all aspects. In addition, and these are the important parts for us, the budget will support the maintenance of district facilities and the management of non-instructional resources to ensure the safety of all students, staff, and community. In order to ensure achievement of the above goal, the district would continue to support the safety and security of our school community. The Health and Safety Committee is actually a standing committee of the district that was required as part of the SAVE legislation 2002, I believe. What changed for the Health and Safety Committee was obviously 2 incidents. One, the tremendous tragedy in Newtown, Connecticut, followed approximately 10 days later, roughly by the tragedy that on Christmas Eve in Webster. Those 2 events created a tremendous amount of anxiety and angst amongst our parents. The week following and the week that school returned, we were flooded, or I was flooded, with emails and phone calls from concerned parents, as I'm sure some of the building partners that are here can attest to. So we made a decision that we were going to ramp up the membership of the committee and take a look at all the things that Mr. Suffoletto talked about. We had invited a representative from the Board of Education. Mr. Suffoletto's been to many of the meetings, district administration, Mr. Gamina, the superintendent. We had a very good cross-section of building administration. We had principals and assistant principals from middle school, high schools, and elementary schools. We had the fortunate that some of those individuals, in addition to being assistant principals, were volunteer firemen in the community, which was an added plus for us. We had a representative from every union in the district. We had representatives from the Webster Police Department. We asked parents, and we came up with 2 parents to agree to sit on the committee, one from DeWitt Road and one from State Road School. We had Blaine Cunningham, Althea, our CAP coordinator, Janine Sanger, and Paula Bush, our TIG coordinator, along with Shelley Cahoon coming to the meeting. So we felt we had a very strong cross-section representation from both the community and from the district to look at all the things, because some of the safety and security things obviously just don't affect administration. And we looked at, as Mr. Suffoletto said, the physical security of our buildings. We're taking a look at policies, regulations, and protocols to see what would fit where and at what level. Took a look at our existing emergency plans, and then a look at an ongoing review, because the committee's work is by no means completed, some trainings and procedures that we can do and need to do. We started with a look at the physical security. What have we done? What do we need to do? As you know, one of the big concerns and one of the strongest things we heard from the parents was the fact that at that point in time you could walk into any one of our schools into the main office pretty much unobstructed and be stopped by the secretary. We have since installed access control, buzzer controlled access to all the elementary schools. So you can't get into any of the elementary schools without being buzzed in by the secretary through a video and voice communication device that sits in between the lobbies. Thomas and Schrader already had a controlled access to them through the security desk at the front of the building. We are in the process of planning the work to install a buzzer system at Willink Middle School. That's a little more difficult building from an installation and physical layout to do, but that is something that we hope to have into effect hopefully by the first of the year. But if you stop there on January 2nd and it's not quite working yet, you understand we're working on that. Spry Middle School, and I can talk a little bit more about that, is a little bit more complicated building due to the nature of district office, the elevator, and all the different services here. So what we decided to do in the spirit of collaboration, and I spoke to Mr. Swinson, is we're forming a small separate committee to take a look at recommendations for Spry and district office. That's going to involve some Spry staff members, a teacher rep, a couple of parents, Dave, I believe, and Carm said he would sit in from a district office look, because as I've expressed to senior administration, I think we need to take a look at the security of district office. Unfortunately, times have changed, and what was comfortable 5 to 10 years ago is no longer comfortable now. And we're going to take a look at all we do with Spry and figure out what in the short run would be a feasible alternative there, keeping in mind that one of our other goals is that we make wise physical investments. So we're going to take a look at that. We've done ongoing improvements to our camera system. We've installed additional exterior cameras, and we have more in inventory that are on the schedule to be put up, additional exterior cameras at Willink and at Spry. And we're continually taking a look at our camera system to add and install. Now that we have a fully networked camera system, we have the ability to expand it pretty easily. We're having some conversation with the police department about a long-term ability for them to maybe access our camera system from their patrol cars. That technology is there, but it requires some work on both ends to do it. It's not a highly expensive process. It's more of a bandwidth communication issue from the law enforcement side. But we are at least taking a look at that. We took a look at all our exterior and interior locks. Many of our staff members had some concerns about locking doors. We've reinforced the belief with the buildings that exterior doors need to be locked at all times, other than the front door, and that's still locked at all the elementary schools. We've taken a look at exterior door numbering. One of the things that the police and the fire department had talked about liking to see is us to number all our exterior doors. We're looking at the secondary buildings right now, but keep in mind, that's roughly 160 doors in those 4 buildings. So it's no small project, but it is something that we actually have some sample numbers up at Willink Middle School, and we've asked the local first responders to swing by the building and take a look and tell us what they like or don't like. We don't really need to number the doors for our help because every building knows the blue house door at Willink where that door is, but a numbering system would make it very easy for first responders to, we tell them, there's an emergency at West, Blue House door 8. They just drive around the building. When they see door 8, they'll know where to go. So that's something we're looking at doing. We've expanded the key card access control, and we're just embarking on a phase 2. We're having conversation with the elementary school buildings about additional doors they'd like to see access control, badge controlled, which would allow quicker access at times for emergencies for kids that are on the playgrounds. We've done most of the playground doors so that if there's a need for the teachers to move kids into the building quickly, they don't have to worry about propping doors open or finding a key or putting a chair in the door like they used to do. But there is some need to expand that a little further, and we're taking a look at that right now. We've done a lot of work with communication. We've actually purchased a large quantity of radios. The goal there is, at an elementary school level, is we would like to be in a position where every grade level has a radio with them when they're outside. It's about a dozen radios a building when you figure the principal, the assistant principal, the nurse, every grade level, the gym classes. It allows us to quickly communicate with them in the event of a lockdown or a lockout in the building, because we've had discussions with staff members about what to do in those 2 scenarios. And we're also in process of purchasing. We've actually purchased a repeater, a signal booster for Thomas, because we found out with the new addition, the radios don't necessarily work quite so well from the new far northwest wing all the way to the tech wing. The issue with a repeater is it requires approval from both the United States and Canada, so it takes over a year to get license approval. We applied for the license last June, and we're just hearing right now that it's probably been approved. It's a very lengthy process. We're within 70 miles of the Canadian border, and that kind of changes the dynamic completely. From a plan review standpoint, we took a look at both our district-wide emergency plan that I know you're familiar with, and then every building is required to have what's called a building-level emergency response plan, and we had conversations with the buildings about those. One of the biggest changes we made probably in the plan review was our old plan, without getting too detailed, used to have what we call the lockdown level 1 and a lockdown level 2. I can tell you from a law enforcement stand that means nothing to them. To them, a lockdown is a lockdown. So we now have a lockdown and a hold in place. Hold in place being used for medical emergencies and things where we need to keep students in classrooms, but we don't need to take shelter and completely lock down is pretty much what it implies. When we're in a lockdown, there's a scenario in the building that's a high-risk scenario. And a variety of examples come up. Those are the 2 big things in our plan review we came across. I really think we have a pretty good plan. I think there's some minor tweaks we can do to it, but it's pretty comprehensive. We've had it looked at by some other individuals. We gave a copy of the plan to the police department, to the 2 parent reps to have them look at it, and most of the feedback was they were pretty pleased with what we have now, but there was some need to make some tweaks in it. When it comes to policies, regulations, and protocols, there's a couple of things we've kind of been talking about. One of the things actually came from one of the committee members, was something, and I brought copies if you're so inclined, something called a SAVE calendar. And really basically what a SAVE calendar is it's really a district-wide decision as to how we're going to do practice events. Right now, the state requires us to do 12 fire drills a year, 8 of which need to be done in the fall and 4 in the spring. There are no requirements for lockdown drills, lockout drills, hold-in-place drills, and any of those kind of drills. So one of the suggestions was that perhaps at a district level, we set our own calendar that says at different months we have an expectation that each building will do something different. And this is just a draft of a potential plan where we would tell a building, we expect in October that you'll conduct an unannounced lockdown drill in your building, so that there is some structure to it. Many of the buildings have practiced these. I've actually been in some of the buildings when they've done them. It's actually pretty, it's very impressive. I was in Clem North when they did a lockdown drill, and that building was quiet and looked empty within 45 seconds. So the buildings are getting used to doing them, but the thought process is perhaps we put structure to what our expectation is as a SAVE calendar. We've taken a good hard look at a visitor pass system. Currently, if you're familiar with our visitor pass system, you sign it at the front desk and you receive an ID badge that's yellow with a number on it that basically says visitor. You sign in and you sign out. One of our big concerns with that process is accountability of those badges and guarantees. We've looked at a system that produces badges, and I'm sorry I didn't make a slide of this. It actually, I know Mr. Suffalo, I think you've seen this, that you actually scan your driver's license in, it produces a badge with your photo on it, and then within 24 hours the badge turns red and it is no longer valid. The other big advantage to this system is for an additional fee, we can sign up for a check of the sex offender registry database nationally. So when someone enters the building and scans their driver's license, it then tells us if they're a registered sex offender in Colorado, for example. It's not necessarily cheap. It's going to be an investment that Mr. Fischer, I have to sit down with him and see how we can make this work. Right now, Pittsford School District has done it, and Rush Henrietta just put it into effect. Both of those districts cut a district policy relative to driver's licenses. And their logic was it avoided a lot of arguments and issues. We actually went to Pittsford School and watched it in place, and it was actually pretty impressive. I watched a parent walk up to the buzzer system and actually be getting her driver's license out of her wallet as she walked up to the building. And she was a visitor. And they just have a absolutely no exception policy. Doesn't matter if you've been there once or 15 times, have a photo ID with you. Unless you are an individual that may not have a driver's license, and then it would require an administrator's approval to take your picture. The system has the ability to capture a picture through a webcam if you don't have a photo ID, but their SOP pretty much is have a photo ID or you're not getting in our buildings. It's something to look at. I'm much more comfortable with it. We can create our own watch list, which is another thing I like, so that if we have a parent who shows up at one of our elementary schools and is irate and very difficult to deal with, we can put that person into the watch list, and when they show up at the affected middle school, the security person at the desk would know that this parent has become agitated and highly disruptive in the past, and at least could advise administration that maybe we should have a couple of administrators come down, that there's a problem person. So we can create our own watch list on the system too. So that's something we've looked at. And one of the other things we're having some conversation about is what we call threat assessment teams. And threat assessment teams pretty much are what they say. It's a combination of building administration, security personnel, oftentimes law enforcement, that when a threat comes in, whether it's from another student, whether it's from the Safe School Helpline, whether it's from a parent, this team would be assembled and do some analysis of this particular student's potential to carry out the threat. And there's an actual procedure that these threat assessment teams go through, but that's something else if we're going to do, we should do it so it's standardized across the district. It's primarily, obviously, a secondary function, but there is the potential that you could need to talk about it for fourth or fifth graders. We've had, incidents where we have some kids that maybe there could be some concerns. So we'll have intelligence come in. So threat assessment team is another thing that we're taking a look at. From the training and procedure side, we've talked about how do we train staff, and one of the things you may or may not have seen is we produce these cards. They're a laminated card. I'd be glad to provide any board member with one. We made plenty. We provided one of these so that in every single classroom in every building there should be one of these cards in every office. It is a quick reference guide for what a staff member does in a lockdown, a hold in place, or a lockout. Fire, a building evacuation, or Gannett. If you're a sub in our buildings now, you see the same card in the emergency folder, whether you're at DeWitt Road or you're at State Road. Makes no difference. So it's standardized now. We've gone over this just today. We trained all the building and ground guys on this. I talked to Jim Austin about training the tech guys, because we have a lot of people who are in and out of buildings but aren't permanently anchored to a building, so that they have some familiarity with what these terms mean. So that's part of the staff training. And I know at the faculty meetings, the principals have had conversations about these and some other things. We've started to have discussion about student training. How do we train our students? What do we say to them? Some of the buildings have developed scripts that they've shared about how do I explain to a third grader what a lockdown is and a lockout in terms that they can understand without making it scary. But we also have to have conversations about how do we talk to our kids about when someone knocks on an exterior door, they do not let that person in, because in our Webster community, we like to think of ourselves as a small, friendly community. I'm pretty sure that a lot of buildings, if you knocked on the door at the wrong time, a student going by might be prone to let someone in that they don't know. That's a conversation that we need to have, and I know Shelley and I have talked a little bit about that from a PBIS standpoint, about starting to have those conversations with kids about doors and door securities and not letting people in and not letting other students in. When you do a lot of research into the past tragedies, a lot of those were students who were let in by other students. Canandaigua, that incident there was a student let that other student in the back door, and that student's intention was not initially to do what he did. So we're starting to talk about how we're going to do that, and how we do that. We've talked about administrative training from a standpoint, especially with NIMS, National Incident Management System, and how do we do that, and some web-based training so that it can be done. FEMA actually offers some web-based training that administrators could take at their own pace, at their own time, that doesn't take a lot of their time, because they do have a couple other things to do every day with Common Core and APPR and that long list. And we're looking at a security review or building audits from a security standpoint. We have NYSER, which comes through and does a very comprehensive checklist of our buildings for fire issues and safety issues on playgrounds and housekeeping and those kind of things. So we're kind of spinning off that a little bit to look at, are all the locks operational, are all the placards posted, are all those things done on a once-a-year basis. So that's the other thing we've really kind of looked at. Still in the works, the committee still has to walk up to the issue of after-school activities. We've spent the bulk, and we're continuing to work on what are we doing from 7 in the morning till 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. There's still a question of with the amount of use our buildings get, what are we talking about from 3:30 till 9, 10 o'clock at night in some of the high schools when there's MCC classes, adult ed classes, games, events going on almost continually. So we're still thinking about what that's going to look like and trying to balance that with the fact that they're public buildings. So, without taking too much more time, that's kind of where we are to date. Questions? Yes, sir.
You talked about Newtown, you referred to that, so you changed the locks. What about the windows?
We've had some questions from parents about windows and doors, and we've taken a look at some products that are out there. There is a company that produces a product that costs somewhere between $12 and $14 a square foot to apply, that makes the windows unbreakable, stay together if they're shot at. There's a couple of concerns or issues with that. They have a 12-year guarantee. What the company can't seem to tell us is what happens after 12 years. And is that a degradation over time? Is the window less strong 6 years from now than today? Or is it just a 12-year number that they kind of picked out of somewhere? They're really not quite answering that question, and that's what a lot of the industry is saying. The other point is, as I said, there are 43 doors, I think, at the building we're sitting in right now. If we try to harden all those doors, it's going to get very expensive very quickly. And as I have said to a couple of parents, we can do that, but I still have 1,000 kids on the bus loop at any one point in time at the end of the day. And if an individual wants to commit unthinkable evil, it's very, very difficult for us, short of turning our schools into an airport or a prison, to prevent those kind of activities. Any of these ideas are designed to delay and buy time, not to prevent the individual from eventually getting in, understanding that, and we've talked to the buildings, you don't need as a teacher to wait to get a hold of the principal to call 911. If you see something that you believe is a danger, call 911, and the cavalry will be on the way. And my first month there, we had an incident at Willink Middle School, very minor, but we had reported as a student who had brought a gun to school. And we had police cars from Webster, Irondequoit, the sheriff's office, and the state police on the Willink property, almost the time it took John Carlivati and I to drive from district office to Willink. So the response is pretty quick. So we're trying to slow them down. A determined individual is probably, you know, and the other piece I will say, if you study school shootings, is most of them, the shooters are already in the building. They're not a Newtown scenario. They're a student or a former student. And that's kind of where the PBIS and the intel from in the building is more important than just hardening the target from an exterior. It's a good idea to harden the target, because the idea is the guy comes up to the door and the secretary sees him, starts trying to smash the glass out, she puts the building in lockdown and everybody takes cover. You know, now there's a process where the individual is spending a lot of time trying to get in, and to do what? And in the meantime, the Webster Police is coming. And the way the police departments are trained now, they no longer wait outside. We have given 2 sets of our master keys to the Webster Police Department supervisors' vehicles. We're actually having conversation now, and I've figured out a way to let the Webster Police Department's key fobs from their building actually work on our buildings if we want to program them in, which is something I think we're going to do, although I kind of need to make sure that we're okay with that, because then an officer could go up to any key fob door and just fob his way in, and that's what they're going to do. If there's an individual in the building with the potential to create harm or is creating harm, they are going right in and going after that person, and that's really what we're trying to do. We've looked at the glass, and some of the parents are still, occasionally I'll get a call about that, but there's some unanswered questions on the products, those products.
Paul? Fritz?
Paul?
Tom?
Okay.
Incredible, just so comprehensive. Thank you. I was going to say very thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Neil.
thanks.
Okay, this does need approval. May I have a motion to accept the safety report, please? Second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Neil.
Okay, Del, your report.
My report. I just want to say it's been wonderful working with Neil, and every time we have a meeting, I just feel safer because I feel like we're in such good hands. So that's good. So thanks, Neil, for everything that you do. So I want to start with just highlighting again Webster's homecoming celebration. It's just around the corner, and it's becoming a much anticipated fall tradition in our community and a wonderful way to show our Webster schools proud. We hope that you'll be able to attend. We're putting the events up on the screen for you, so just to review, it's all weekend long. Friday, October 18th is the Webster Schrader football game versus Fairport. It is their homecoming football game, and the Webster Marching Band will be performing at halftime Friday, October 18th. Then Saturday, we're starting our parade this year at noon. That's a change. So it's not first thing in the morning. It's starting at noon. And then Saturday evening, we roll right into 2 major events. We have a 7 p.m. Webster Thomas Stadium, the Thomas Homecoming football game. We also have going on that evening at 5:15, Webster Schrader Stadium, the 28th Annual Autumn Fanfare. Unprecedented 14 bands are performing, including our very own, the Pride of Webster Marching Band, that evening. So it's a great weekend, and we really hope you mark your calendar now, pick your event, and that we'll see you there. Our Webster Schrader Mathletes. This was introduced by our student liaison, but I just want to say it again. They competed at Wayne in the league competition. They won the competition for large schools with a total of 122 points. And the very fun thing about that is the next closest team in competition was Webster Thomas. So it's just a wonderful representation that our Webster Schrader Mathletes won the competition, and the next closest team in the whole competition of regional schools was Webster Thomas. We want to make a special note and shout out to Webster Schrader Mathletes Peter Wood. Peter was here last year for a celebration, and Robin Zhang, who capped off this great win with perfect scores for their team. So way to go, Webster Mathletes. So now we're going from high school to elementary, and we're congratulating approximately 700 Webster fourth graders who successfully ran and completed the 48th annual fun run this past Friday at North Ponds Park. The weather was picture perfect after several years of cloudy runs. This was picture perfect day. Our students had the opportunity to learn just how much fun physical fitness can be as they walked, jogged, or ran the full mile around North Ponds. And that is a nice run. I've run it many times myself. If you want an afternoon to either walk or run, North Ponds is just a beautiful community asset. We want to thank our district's physical education teachers and the sponsor, Fleet Feet Yellow Jacket Racing, for organizing this unique event for our Webster's fourth grade. Now, I'd like to salute a group of fifth graders from Plank South Elementary School for organizing a food drive this week to benefit the Webster Food Cupboard. The drive runs through October 10th, and students can bring in canned goods, boxed goods, toiletries, and cleaning products to Plank South to donate. But the very unique thing is the idea for this drive came about as these students learned about human rights and world hunger during class. And they wanted to try to make a difference in their own part of the world. So they responded to what they were reading and put that action into their community and real life and said, let's do a food drive for our community. And I am Webster proud of this compassionate and caring group of Plank South students, and I wish them the best and much success with their food drive. And finally, I just want to illustrate something really fun that I saw today at Plank North. We were doing a learning walk in kindergarten and first grade classrooms, and really we just walk around and just observe teachers and learn about the practices and strategies that are going on, and we see many wonderful things. So we were in a first grade classroom, and the teacher was teaching about writing, okay? And when you're in first grade, you have to learn how to put details in your writing. So they were singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider, and they were talking about itsy bitsy details, and that was really fun. And then the teacher told a story with just like 3 really big ideas to the class. She said, so what if I was, writing my story and I wrote this, and she had just 3 really big ideas. She said, what would you think of that story? And some of the kids are like, there's not enough there. It's really boring. And then one student raised her hand and said, it's not done yet. And it just struck me that it was just that was such a great explanation, and as we were talking about grit, it's not done yet. You have to put more in it. You have to work harder at it. You have to find the details in it. And I thought, what a beautiful way in first grade for students to be expressing that it's okay if it's not done yet the first time. You just keep working on it and keep working on it until you get those details. So that was a beautiful example of grit from Plank North first grade. A lot of fun for me to see those classrooms. And that ends my report.
Thank you, Adele. Before we move on, I just want to let everyone know that each year Robert Wesleyan College honors one of their alumni for their outstanding achievement and commitment in their respective field. And this year, Adele has been selected to receive that honor. So congratulations, Adele.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're moving on to our an approval for an application for our career and technical education approval of a business administration sequence, and this fits right into our idea of career pathways. So, Eric and Megan, you're going to tell us a little bit about this.
Good evening. As Mike said, we're going to describe the process that the business department has gone through for the past year, looking at a pathway, basically a package of our business classes into a CTE pathway that's state approved. So on the screen you'll see verbiage from the state about what a CTE pathway looks like. And it's basically what I just said in terms of a package of classes that we put together in our business department that gets students the special skills and training that they need to be successful either in the workplace or at the college level, and has to build in a community component. One class that has to be there is career and money skills. We had that as part of our plan from the beginning, and then when we went and looked at the application a little bit further, we realized we had to have it there. But one of the questions is, do you have that component either embedded in your courses or as a standalone? So that's the program that we'll be looking at. There's a wide variety of things that you can choose from for the state to meet this requirement. A lot of BOCES programs are designed for this component. Ours, as you look at it at a school level, basically you're building your own program. So we went through our courses and built our program that we felt would work best for a business administration specialist. Again, they could then enter the workforce and be successful, or to work at the college and career level. We chose a 5-credit sequence, which we'll get to in a little bit. Choosing that 5-credit sequence for the state allows our students actually to forego a LOTE requirement if they so chose. It's certainly something that we want students to do, but as you work along a pathway, we all know you have to make choices. And if this is something a student realizes they want to do, that's something that they could make that choice at the high school level to forgo the language requirement and use this as a 5-credit sequence instead. The other thing that allows us to do is it gives them a seal, a stamp on their diploma, similar to the math and science distinction that the state created the last 2 years. This seal is affixed to their diploma saying they have a CTE certification that goes along with it. The approval process was lengthy. The business department had already started down this road when I joined the team last year, and you can see the process up on the screen, doing a full self-study of the department and the program, a curriculum review, the teacher certification. We have to have assessments built into the program that make sure students meet the requirements. We have to do an articulation agreement with a post-secondary school. We work closely with MCC. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. There has to be work-based learning built in, along with an employability profile. Then after we do our self-study, we present that to an external review committee. And now we're at our board approval step, and we're hopeful to send it off to the state either tomorrow or Monday once we get all the paperwork put together, pending approval tonight. I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and she can tell you a little bit about the courses in the sequence.
So we looked at all the different courses that we offer, and we didn't add any. They're all existing courses that we currently have, 3 of them being dual credit with MCC, which are accounting, Microsoft Office, and entrepreneurship. So for a total of 11 credits they could come out with. The core courses, we think they're going to give them the opportunity to go major in business in college and maybe go to an entry-level career. You know, they could do a bookkeeper, administrative assistant, even some payroll, data entry stuff. And there's a lot of flexibility. The classes, they can start as early as 9th grade and progress to their senior year. And there's only 2 full-year classes, which is nice, which is flexible with their schedule if they want to take their other APs and whatnot, when you have 6 semester courses that you can work in. So those are the list of the courses. So once we decided on the different courses we were going to look at, we really went in depth and did a curriculum crosswalk to match them with the National Education Business Standards, along with the CDOS, New York State standards, and the Common Core where it was applicable. You know, that's pretty much what we worked on all last year. It was pretty in-depth, and we found areas where we needed to increase rigor and to make it you know, a great option for those kids that gives them something else to be a little bit more competitive on their resume and applications.
And now at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a new logo, the CT Technical Assistance Center. And we're going to hear quite a bit about them, actually in about 10 minutes when I do CT presentation number 2. But we tapped into them as a free resource for the district that's provided by a contract through the state. And they assisted us with the crosswalk and assisted us with the entire process, really. But they provided us templates and showed us what we needed to crosswalk and how it should look when we're done to really get through this curriculum process.
Like Eric mentioned before, we have to have 2 assessments as part of the CTE requirement. So we looked through a bunch of different assessments, and we decided that our 2 best options would be the NOCSE, 21st Century Workplace Success, and that was our knowledge. It's a 100 multiple choice test that you could take online, and we figured they would take this probably their junior, senior year after they've gotten most of their 5 core credits out of the way. And then we need a performance-based assessment as well, and we decided to use the Microsoft Office Specialist Test in Word. And they would take that once they finish Word in the Microsoft Office course. So that would be around December, January.
The next step, again, as I said, was to talk about the external review and the post-secondary articulation. We utilized our World of Work program that has an existing committee of local businesses, the Chamber of Commerce, Kitchen and Bath Expressions, Tim Hortons, Paychex, Family First, a variety of businesses in the Webster community, and gathered their input as well as looking with input from some of the folks from MCC. We actually, through this review process, had originally had personal law in the CT sequence, and based on the recommendations from the external review, actually swapped it out for personal finance. One of the recommendations was that we needed to add in some more finance and understanding, and the personal finance course actually did a lot of what the review recommended. So that was a positive change that we were able to make, and it was a fairly easy change in the sequence to address some of those concerns. And again, the only downfall with that was we lost three dual credits with MCC because personal law is a dual credit course for MCC. However, we're currently working on additional dual credit with MCC for the word processing course, which would get us back up to that 14, and we even have in the works a little bit further down, possibly even be able to get another 3-credit course, which would get us all the way up to 17 credits by completing the sequence. So that is the program that we have, and at this point we're looking for questions from you all.
Okay, we'll start on my right side. Janine?
Thank you. Having taught at MCC in the Business and Economics Department, I'm curious as to whether or not you are looking at incorporating the AP Micro-Macroeconomics course as an addendum or something ancillary to this to give students a more, I don't want to say academic foundation, but a broader foundation of the principles that underlie some of the business decisions that get made that they may not think of in terms of, from a practical standpoint, understanding the theory and concept and the behaviors behind it.
Yeah, we certainly have the opportunity over the course of the CT. The certification runs for 5 years, and we have the opportunity to make revisions during that time, as well as obviously at that 5-year checkpoint. And when we were going through the process with this last year, we didn't feel it was a good time to bring that in, but it certainly came up a couple of times, and we've looked at actually getting dual credit for some of the economics involved in the business courses themselves. The problem becomes a certification piece where our business teachers don't have the economic courses required for the MCC dual credit. So we're looking at, is it something that we can do within the business department to go back and get those credits, or can we work and incorporate the AP economics and possibly bring that in as another course? Then it becomes we have to drop something though. So that was a conversation too. So that was something we have thought about, and we're going to look at down the road and see how the CT progresses.
Is it the case that the sequence is fully prescribed, or are there options within that sequence?
This sequence is fully prescribed. We could create options for it and have students take one or the other. That's something we do have the option to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have a couple questions and comments. First of all, I just want to say the idea of having personal finance and Excel in there is just fabulous. Been talking about it for a few years. So I really appreciate that. And other students could take these classes, but just not get the sequence.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then my other question is, how does this relate to our graduation requirements? This would substitute for something?
It could, as I said before, it could substitute for the languages other than English requirement through the Regents exam. The students could use this 5-credit sequence instead of that LOTE requirement.
Okay.
Other than that, it's mainly an elective sequence. There is the option to go back and look for embedded credit and say, ooh, there's enough there's enough math going on in the personal finance course that we can give students a half credit of high school math for it. Or there's enough writing or social studies going on within the law course that we're going to look at awarding a half credit of social studies or half credit of English for that course. That was something we didn't want to bite off at this point and said we want to get a sequence in and get our feet wet, and thought that was something we could look at further on down the line for a further review.
Great, thank you very much.
Tom?
Yeah, great report. I agree with all the positive comments that everybody shared. Just a question. I'm not familiar with the current business curriculum right now. This proposal, is this going to expand? So, okay.
No, it's current courses that this is pretty much courses that we run every year.
Okay.
I don't think any of these are courses that we haven't run within the past few years, so they're courses that have pretty steady enrollment. Our goal is really to kind of get students to take a package and say, oh, if I take these 5 credits, I'm now fully prepared to go in as a business major going into college.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, I could think of probably 10 kids off the top of my head that probably could have the CTE. We don't have it formally yet,
Okay.
that they've taken them all.
Good, thanks.
I'm good, thanks.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Board, this does need action. We need to approve this application, so may we have a motion to accept the Business Administration application for CTE program approval? Thank you. Second? All in favor? Okay, motion carries. Now, you caught my attention when you said free resources. So Bill's going to come up here and
Bill's
also
coming
help
up. He's
us
gonna
with
join me.
free resources.
So this is really part 2. And before we get into what the CT assessment project is, I want to kind of set the stage of where this is coming from. The quote up on the screen, America will not succeed in the 21st century unless we do a better job of educating our sons and daughters. And that race starts today, is from President Barack Obama at the start of the Race to the Top a few years ago. And as part of the Race to the Top is building common academic standards that build towards college and career readiness. And that's something that as a district and as a board we've been working towards. We've added in the community readiness as well. Also part of the Race to the Top is promoting collaborations between business leaders, educators, and other stakeholders to raise student achievement and close achievement gaps. And that's what the CT process is about. It's, again, taking courses and a lot of things that we already do and packaging them together to make well-rounded students who are more college and career ready and community ready coming out of our high schools because they've taken down a certain pathway. We know we have students who want to start down a pathway, and we haven't necessarily pushed them one way or the other because we haven't packaged them well. So looking at the CT as a pathway is really our next step. Taking a little closer look at what in Webster brought us here, the strategic initiative, planning initiative from 2011, and then Juanita Davies' work last spring, and then obviously the board goals. And looking at the increase in the academic board goal with the addition of the CT, the business department and the tech department certainly keyed right in on that as soon as they saw those board goals. And this is in some ways a response to that being added to the board goals, but also a response to the previous strategic planning with Juanita Davies and the work 2 years ago that recognizing we needed to put some things in place.
So at this point, I'm going to continue to talk about the actual project in regards to the objectives, the timeline, and the potential outcomes for the CTE project. The first part of this, and we talked about the CTE Technical Assistance Center and how they assisted with the approval for our business administration application. Now we're asking them to come into the district and partner with us, and is an overview of the project for them to do an assessment of our current resources, our programming, our teaching staff, our actual infrastructure in our classrooms, and then to look at regional resources, and then I'm getting ahead of myself, and then to give us a plan for additional CTE sequences that we want to bring to you to propose. Our partners in this from the CTE Technical Assistance Center are Ed Schaefer, the director, and Charlie Crum, who's out of Albion. So they'll be working right here in the district and doing, interacting with our teachers, our administrators, in work sessions. So the objectives for the project, there's 6 main objectives. First of all, to conduct an audit of our current CTE programs, do a crosswalk. This is very important, is that they're going to look at the Finger Lakes Region Economic Development Plan, the region labor projections, and our district offerings, and project out 10 years from now what careers will be in need in for our students, and what skills they need to be able to go into those career tracks, so that we can work backward in developing 21st century career paths. The second part of our objective is then, once we have that information, we have that background information, and we've done interviews with district staff, is to look at what priority career clusters we should develop as a district. We've challenged them a little bit in going beyond what they typically do for a district, and we've asked them to do 2 more things for us, in that they create opportunities, look at creating integrated credits across the STEAM disciplines, as well as maximizing the dual credit courses that we can have within our schools, and those that lead to technical certification. They typically don't do that as part of their normal report. Any questions so far?
Just for the audience that's listening, can you identify what the STEAM disciplines are, just so people can
This science, technology, engineering, the arts, and mathematics.
So we integrate, we are interested in building and finding, as Eric was describing before, enough of those types of activities built into these courses where students could accrue a science, a technical strand, and engineering, arts, or math within this career and technical education. So we think that would strengthen the approach for students, and it would also make the courses themselves more holistic in nature.
Right. So as the project timeline, right now, the other thing we've asked them to do is to shorten their timeline. Typically, they take 6 months or so to do a project like this with a district, and we've asked them to start in September and finish at January 31st, because we really want to be able to start implementing some of the recommendations around this as soon as possible. So the first step is the creation of our project team, which you can see here. Adele is the supervisor of the project team, and Eric and I will be working together to manage it, the project. Our initial work session is already scheduled for October 15th and 16th, and we have 2 full days where Ed Schaefer and Charlie Crum will be meeting with middle school, high school principals, the counselors, the different departments, full departments of teachers, as well as Adele and Brian, the World of Work coordinator. So they have a full schedule, and that's part of that, establishing an inventory of our current assets. Following that, they will be on their own meeting with our post-secondary and business partners, then compiling their report and doing the crosswalk between the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Development Plan, and then bring in a report to the superintendent. Following that, we'll review the report and develop a long-range strategic plan around our CTE offerings.
The report would then go to the Strategic Planning Committee as an initiative.
So our main two goals are, one is to develop, use the report to develop the strategic planning initiative, and then to strengthen our connections with local business and post-secondary institutions. Are there any questions?
Can you limit to two? All right, no, yes?
No.
Okay,
Not at this
fine.
point.
All right. Anything else, or Fritz?
A phrase that's in the report, Department of Labor Analysis of the Regional Employment Futures, that really caught my ears. And it's hard when you don't know what the job market is going to be. It's changing so fast. So that really caught me, and I'm glad it's in there, and I hope it remains a focus.
It will.
Yeah, it's the Finger Lakes Regional Economic Corporation, and we have some relationship with them from the Webster Community Coalition for Economic Development, because the development specialist that we work with has that kind of network. They know about Webster, but it's the first time, I think, that we're taking their statistics and juxtaposing what we have in our schools and saying, can we build some career and technical strands that really meet the needs that our employers are saying that they're looking for people to fill these needs. And we've talked about this conceptually before, but this actually gives us a way to do it with the help of the Technical Assistance Center, which is grant funded. So we're taking advantage of all of these services on a grant, which then doesn't cost our taxpayer anything, which is nice. And it's going to bring recommendations and I think bring our strategic planning focus to life in a more tangible way than we've had in the past, and really design from our strategic planning focus right into our programmatic focus, which is a dream that we've had, and we really want to see that come, realized. So that's why we moved the timeline from now until January and said we really need to get that report in January.
Question I have, does that connection include organizations like Greater Rochester Enterprise and the RBA, who already have outreaches through human resource activity? This is the type of person we're looking to enter our workforce. Can anybody answer that?
Yeah, I know that the Technical Assistance Center has those contacts.
they
They're
have that
currently
network.
working through an audit with the City of Rochester Schools as well.
Mhm.
So they're aware of those contacts and those organizations, and would bring those into the fold as well.
Right. And one of the people that I want them to talk to is our economic specialist, Glenn Cook, who has a very strong relationship with both the Greater Rochester Enterprises and Rochester Business Association.
Janine?
Well, I guess the beauty of it is that it looks like it builds on our strengths and really capitalizes on how we can best leverage those for our kids. And that's a wonderful thing. So, thank you.
Just so I'm clear, the board can expect a report at the end of January on this then?
Mhm.
Okay, that's great. This doesn't need action, board. It was for information, so thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm looking over to my left, especially at our younger board members, or younger serving board
Oh, boy.
members.
Novice,
Or novice. We have a National School Board Convention coming up in April, and it's a little bit different than our state convention in the sense that the National Convention, I think, really offers some futuristic workshops that maybe our state isn't quite ready to consider. So we're offering the opportunity for someone to go, and we have to decide whether it's just one person or more than one person, or if no one is going. New Orleans, April 3rd, or is it April 5th through the 7th? You're smiling.
Yeah, because it's up my alley, but I can't.
Okay. The registration does open on October 23rd, and, if you don't register early, you're not going to get a good hotel and all that kind of stuff. I went 2 years ago, and, yep, and I don't,
We need a decision tonight?
we could table it if you want.
If we could.
Is that okay with the board? And we'll-
Tom, are
Oh,
you
Tom.
going? Anybody?
Tom is
Okay,
going.
Tom will be going.
With New York State School Boards Association. All right, then, let's make it official. We'll table, motion to table till the October 17th. Can I have that motion? Fine?
I'll make
Yep.
that motion.
Thank you. Okay, all in favor of tabling till October 17th?
Aye.
Right, okay, that is tabled.
So everyone check your calendars.
Yep. We don't have a treasurer's report today, but I believe, Fritz, you do have a question that Jim might be able to help us answer?
Yeah, with the government shutdown, if it's extended another week, 2 weeks, just wondering what the financial impacts may be for public schools, if any.
For public schools versus Webster, those school districts that have a large amount of grant money coming in from the feds could see delays. For Webster, the money that comes in, about $3 million in federal grants, roughly, that we receive. Most of the money comes in second quarter of our school year, third quarter. So the next couple of months is not going to be an issue. We normally fund the money from our general funds budget, and then when we get the federal funds, because they do usually come at a little later in the year, we're able to cover all the expenses. From the state side, the state could see a holdup of Medicaid funding, which could impact us if we don't get the funding because the state doesn't get the federal funding. But that's very little. It's not a large sum of money. It's that we'd be using. We don't use that for operating expenses. It's revenues that come in.
Thank you.
And most of those federal grants are related to Title I?
Title I, special ed.
Okay.
The large special ed grant is our largest one. And we have two title grants, Title I and Title II.
Anything else from the board on that? Okay, thank you, Fritz, for that. Okay, we'll move into board reports. Mike, we'll start with you. Anything from, you're with Plank North?
Had a great meeting last night, my first one, and I got to tell you, PTSA, they work hard. They really do. I really give them a lot of kudos. Heather Balsamo and Dave Peter gave a great report on test scores, statistics, and they did a really good job at that, making parents understand what they mean, and I thought that was really well done. One question last night that came up, which was concerning the acceleration program or accelerated math at Plank North, and it was a little bit of a debate and a little bit of stuff going on towards the end of the meeting about that, and basically the answer is that we're working on a strong base before we send them on to 6th and 7th grade. We want a great foundation first, is what David Peter said, and but it's still, I think might be something that we can do for some of the accelerated kids. There's certain kids that just are off the chart on the math side, and they do need a little bit more of a challenge. So I went with that, but I still think there's something maybe we could do extra. So.
Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
Paul?
I too had my first PTSA meeting. That was last week. Erin Land, the principal, and Miss Buss was a PTSA president there. Did a nice job at the meeting, and I agree. PTSA works extremely hard. Their curriculum night was tonight, so they were working through that. They also have a family dance coming up, the second annual, but this year it's in the fall, which is nice. They had a lot of good fun last year. The concern that was brought up was related to the Common Core at our meeting, and I believe the board will be addressing that through a workshop coming up soon. So we talked about that, and I mentioned that to them too. So everything was good.
Thank you, Paul. Fritz, anything from you?
Nothing specific about DeWitt, but I just want to congratulate all the fun run participants. It was
When are your
It was my third time as a parent.
Did you win?
And I wish I did win, but no. I was tired just looking at them run. But congratulations to the phys ed staff, too. There's a lot of work behind the scenes and all the volunteers that assist with that. It's always a great event. I believe next year, maybe the 50th
Yeah, it's close to that. Yep.
event. If it's not next year, it's coming up pretty close, so. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tom?
Not a new, PTSA meeting was held on the 23rd, I reported on that last week, but the State Road is going to be having a readathon fundraiser starting the 9th of this month, running through the 18th, and sponsored by the PTSA, working in conjunction with the teachers. Should be fun.
Thank you. Janine?
No.
Okay, Sue?
At Schlegel Road, see, the kindergartners are getting into their day-to-day routines, and lunch is going well, so.
That's important.
The word integrated is going, is heard a lot around the school with the Common Core. They had a chicken barbecue last night as a fundraiser, and that went well. And also, the playground installation is almost complete, and there will be a ribbon-cutting ceremony soon, so we'll hear about that.
Thank you, Sue. The Plank Road South PTSA had their meeting last week. It was very well attended, and besides the normal business that the PTA conducts, the fifth grade parents who were in attendance were very excited about the pilot program of the tri-semester report cards with the two parent conferences, so that's good to hear. Also be aware, board members, that October 10th is the fifth grade orienteering exercise at Webster Park, so if you want to try that, you certainly can. And there's coffee with the principal next Wednesday at both middle schools. Spry starts at 9 and Willink starts at 9:30. And if you're a district resident, hopefully you received our annual report in the mail this week. I think we did a nice job on it this year. Board members, any comments on? And if you did not receive a copy, I believe all of our libraries have copies of this.
And they're online, right?
And it's also online, isn't it? Yes, so you can take a look at that. Okay, we'll move on then to the Monroe County School Boards Association. Anything from steering, Sue?
The next meeting is October 30th.
Thank you. Tom or Sue, do you want to do legislative?
I'll do it. I'll try not to talk too long, because I know the Bills game is on. Next Thursday afternoon, 3 o'clock, there is a meeting with Assemblyman Mark Johns. We don't have anybody from Webster going at this point, so if somebody wants to hop on. Next Thursday, 3 o'clock. So if anybody can go, that'd be great. That's number one. Number two, last time I gave the report, I talked about the position paper we were doing on Governor Cuomo's comments about the death penalty to school. And I did misspeak, because you will not have an opportunity to respond to it, although all the legislative committee members will, and then the executive committee will be approving it, hopefully next week. But basically, it's a pretty strong statement to the governor, criticizing him for his statements about the death penalty to school. Like I said, it should be available next week. But some of the comments in here are about no government leader can freely criticize school performance as if it's someone else's problem. Each agency of government has a role in the overall welfare of our communities as a society, and we all have a collective interest in the success of our students. The governor's proposal to remove locally elected school boards violates the foundation of our democratic principles. Other comments are Governor Cuomo's own New York State Education Reform Commission report, putting students first action plan is counter to what he is proposing. His report recommends increased access to early educational opportunities. So some of these things were just basically, kind of right back at you, Governor. Anyway, these position papers are used when we go and meet with our representatives, and the governor will be getting his own personal copy as well. So the final one should be coming out next week.
Sue, has there been a discussion about the fall trip this year? Is that still slated?
The December trip?
Is it December?
Yep, that's coming up.
being talked at executive.
The lobby trip to Albany has been changed to Monday, December 9th. It was on the 2nd, but that was the Monday right after Thanksgiving, so we decided to move it back a week. So it's December 9th. So it'd be great if anybody could go. It's a one-day trip. You leave super early and you get home around dinner time. Other things at the legislative meeting that they talked about were the hearings on school reforms, and there is a way to get all the testimony that was written and the oral testimony as well as the written testimony, and that's basically on Senator Flanagan's website, so you can see all the kinds of comments that people made.
Again.
Again. Let's see if there's anything else. As far as Washington goes, more than 90% of the Department of Education's 4,200 workers are now on furlough, so we probably won't get a lot of questions answered if we have any.
So it sounds like education is deemed non-essential.
Yes. The ESEA reauthorization, the Elementary and Secondary Act reauthorization, nothing's happening with that. On November 4th, Monday, it's a Monday night, is the, two of our regents will be available for conversation, a dinner and conversation that's out at Gates Chila High School. I think we have a few people going. Okay. And I was mistaken, it's 200 people get to go instead of 100. So that's all for now.
Thank you, Sue. Information exchange will be held next Wednesday, and the topic is going to be the City of Rochester initiatives. Labor relations will be the week after. Fritz, do you know the topic on that one yet?
I don't. I haven't gotten the agenda.
And Executive Committee will be meeting also next week. Besides the things that Sue mentioned, we will be hearing regional committee reports from the Council of Government and the Board of Directors from New York State School Boards Association. Speaking of, Tom, do you have anything from them at all to report?
Just that our last meeting, and I don't know if I mentioned it, we should bring it up, though, is that both the Assembly and the Senate has passed legislation freeing up the BOSI's and other purchasing areas to be able to work with national purchasing groups now. They're just waiting for that bill to be sent to the governor for signature, which basically still allows us to work through BOSI's, but now BOSI's has a larger array to be able to go out and solicit bids from a larger group. So that might be helpful in saving the district some money, so you're not locked into the state contracts.
Thank you, Tom. Janine, anything on audit?
Yes, we're going to be scheduling an audit committee meeting to review the external audit, which will then, following that meeting, come to the board for acceptance and approval.
Thank you. Sue, do you have anything to report on policy?
Just quickly, we had our first meeting on Tuesday. Our next meeting is December 10th. This year, we're reviewing all the student achievement policies, the 5,000 series of policies. We do expect to have some conversation on our wellness policy and our graduation policy and a potential new policy on tenure. And we'll be seeing a first reading for a revised PTSA policy, just cleaning up some language and making it a little more consistent. And making sure our students understand that they're welcome as well. And that's it.
Thank you, Sue. Okay, we'll move into our consent agenda. Board members, you've had a chance to take a look at it. It includes the superintendent's recommendations for approval of personnel actions, the recommendation on the Committee on Special Education, and the recommendation of the Committee on Preschool Special Education. May we have a motion to accept the consent agenda, please?
So moved.
Thank you. And Sue's got the second, or either Fritz. May we have a motion to accept it, please? Or we did. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. Before we ask for a motion for adjournment, I just would like to remind board members that we are having an informational workshop on the Common Core next Thursday. We are inviting the public to attend this. It will be here in the Spry Auditorium, 7 o'clock. With that being said, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone.